about struggle. So
Recording is on.
I we have a format which Kaylee, and first of all I want to acknowledge the team of people who have been sending you information and making sure that this panel is coordinated and happening. And that would be Rosie Gordon Wallace, Rashida Muslim, and Kaylee, who you already know, Kaylee Coleman. So I just wanted to acknowledge our team and to acknowledge all of you who have agreed to spend time on this panel and work. And I'm going to do just two grounding things. I think Mina is going to open us up with a minute of silence. And then I just, because of all of the confusion this morning, I would just like to read you an incantation or a hope, and then we'll get started. Okay?
Ok, yo sé que no fue fácil esta mañana, habían varios retos, pero sabemos sobre todos retos. Como dije, Kelly, voy a compartir el horario por nuestro tiempo juntos, pero antes me gustaría dar mis agradecimientos a nuestro equipo que han pasado su tiempo organizando ese panel, compartiendo información, Rosie, Rashida, Kelly y todos ustedes para estar presentes en nuestro panel de hoy. Antes de empezar con el horario planificado, me gustaría hacer con ustedes dos ejercicios, además un minuto de silencio y una incantación también.
And I was remiss, Michelle Cox, also, who you've heard from this morning in such a beautiful way. So I wanted to thank Michelle for leading us in that beautiful piece.
Y se me olvidó mencionar a Michelle y agradecer a ella por su performance esta mañana. Muchísimas gracias.
Okay. So Mina?
Thank you so much, Linda. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Meena Natarajan, and I am from Minneapolis, from Dakota land. And just want to thank you for giving me the honor of beginning this in my company. Please tell me to stop if you want to translate.
Ok, yo soy Mina, soy de Minnesota, en la tierra de Dakota, y gracias por darme el honor de abrir esta sesión.
And so in my company, we have this practice from 1995, since we began, called 2 minutes of silence. And what I simply do is to ring a bell. We sit together in silence. If we were in the same room, we would be in a circle and for 2 minutes and just meditate. It's a time for us to breathe together.
Yo me gustaría compartir esa práctica que tenemos en mi grupo desde 1995. Empezamos con 2 minutos de silencio con una campanilla y normalmente estamos en un círculo y pensamos en silencio.
And it's a moment to be, just to have collective, a moment of collective meditation. So
Para estar juntos colectivamente.
So thank you. I'm just going to ring this bell once, and then I'll ring it again when we end, and then Linda can take over.
Yo voy a tocar la campanilla y 2 minutos de silencio, o sea, 1 minuto de silencio, y yo toco la campanilla de nuevo.
Thank you, Mina.
Gracias.
So I just wanted to reground us, and I think Emilio, we haven't met. I was inspired by your presentation this morning, and this panel being about the pandemic. And you said this art has changed us, or this has changed us, and that's kind of the root of the panel. You know, how has it changed us? I think the questions that we started as a grounding place. Has our practice been altered irrevocably by
Okay.
space?
Yo quería agradecer a José Emilio, gracias por su presentación, me inspiró mucho. Y dijiste antes que el arte nos ha cambiado y esta idea es la corazón de este panel, cómo nos ha cambiado y las preguntas son...
How has the pandemic altered our practice, and what is the future of our practice in this new way of being?
Cómo la pandemia ha cambiado nuestra práctica y cómo eso dura hasta el futuro.
So I think I'm going to end my part of this and then turn it over to the panelists to respond to the questions and to pose questions for one another. Just to ground us again, and I think we were grounded in the silence. But as we begin, I want us to acknowledge some of our new practices as well as the old, our new beginnings. New rituals created to acknowledge the invisible, recognition of people and places and ways of being, to engage our sometimes resistant selves in new and profound rituals. And you can just truncate that.
Yo voy a terminar con mi parte de la sesión ahora y empezamos con la parte de preguntas y para que los panelistas puedan responder a sus preguntas y hacer preguntas una a otra. Y también me gustaría decir que con dar un conocimiento a nuestras prácticas viejas y nuevas, cómo empezamos y sí.
And I shall leave it at that, and I will let us all be engaged. Does anybody have an impulse to begin this discussion? And I have an order that I have put together, but I want us to really follow our impulses into this discussion. And your presentations can come in any order, or I can call them out.
Si a alguna persona le gustaría empezar en cualquier orden, yo tengo una lista en mente también, pero como ustedes quieren, si alguien quiere empezar.
Linda, Andrea had a question in the chat if we were going to start with the 4 Ps or if, for the sake of time, we want to go directly to the questions.
Oh, I think do we have time for the 4 Ps quickly?
I think if we do them quickly, we'll have time.
A little bit? Okay. So,
Andrea pregunta si hay tiempo para los 4 P o si empezamos directamente con las preguntas y creo que sí hay tiempo para los 4 Ps.
And some of you have submitted them and they're quite beautiful. We just need to keep them really succinct. Okay?
Unos ya han entregado sus 4 Ps, pero si no, aún pueden hacerlo de una forma más breve como sea posible.
Okay. Who wants to go first? And then I'll call people out. Yes, I will call you out.
¿Quién quiere empezar o te llamo?
I can go.
Oh. Yes.
So I guess I'm my 4 Ps. I'm from India, so really grounded in the soil.
Yo soy de India, donde la tierra tiene mucha importancia.
And I speak, my mother tongue is Tamil, which is also my place, like a place of comfort for me, which is one of the oldest languages in the world.
Mi lengua nativa, que donde es donde nací también, que se llama. Can you repeat that, please?
Tamil actually, but Tamil.
Tamil y Tamil.
Tamil, yeah. And I come from a colonized people, and so my people are those that battle oppressions and are committed to equity and justice everywhere.
Yo soy de gente colonizada que luchan contra opresión y por justicia en todos lados.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mina.
yes. Are we doing people and place separately, or are we doing
Yeah.
all four?
Mhm.
Are we doing all four together?
Yes.
Vamos a hacer todos cuatro juntos, sí, sí,
Okay.
yes.
And so I'm going to do very quickly. My place is, I'm from India, but I live in Minneapolis on Dakota land.
Soy de India, pero yo vivo en Minneapolis, en la tierra de Dakota.
And right now, my city is really shaped by what happened with George Floyd and also what's happening to rebuild our community.
Y lo que pasó con George Floyd el año pasado ha afectado mucho a mi comunidad y cómo seguimos adelante después de eso.
I live just literally 1 mile away from the uprising.
Yo vivo muy cerca de donde pasó eso.
And my point of view is to just keep my heart vulnerable and open, and we listen, and just to listen.
Y mi punto de vista es mantener mi corazón abierta y vulnerable y escuchar.
And my practice is ensemble and to center the stories of people who've been invisibilized.
Y mi práctica es ensemble y para enfocar específicamente en gente que está invisibilizado.
And to create organically, to step back when others need to speak, and to create compassionate communities.
Para crear orgánicamente y para dar espacio cuando otros deben querían hablar.
Thank you, Mina.
Gracias, Mina.
Someone step up.
I'll go next.
¿Quién más? Yo.
Hi, everyone. Buenos dias. My name is Rosie Gordon Wallace, and I live in Miami. I am Jamaican from a little space in Kingston. My people are people whose hearts are open and turned to the global South. My home place, I live in Miami, Florida, but my heart can roam anywhere in the Caribbean, all the way over to Suriname. My point of view is that I would like to do good when no one is watching. And my practice is within the visual arts.
Thank you, Rosie.
Ok, soy Rosie y yo vivo en Miami, pero soy de Kingston, Jamaica. Yo tengo mi corazón abierta, o sea, mi gente son gente que tienen sus corazones abiertos al sur global y mi lugar es Miami específicamente, pero todo el Caribe hasta Surinam. Mi práctica es hacer lo bueno y mientras que nadie me está mirando, y mi práctica es arte visual.
Great. Who's ready?
¿Quién más?
Beautiful, Rosie. Michelle?
I'll go next. Hi. Okay, so
Hola.
me llamo Michelle.
I'm Michelle.
My people are firstly my ancestors, and I am where I am today because of their struggles, triumphs, and determination. And my work is very much dedicated to them.
Yo soy Michelle. Mi gente son primeramente mis antepasados que han luchado y triunfado y tienen con la determinación, y eso influye mucho en mi trabajo.
For my place, I've lived on 3 islands, Barbados, Trinidad, and England. And in each of those places, they're bound by oceans, but I found expansive spaces of love, encouragement, and growth.
Y yo he vivido en 3 islas, en Barbados, en Trinidad y en Inglaterra. Todos son alrededor de mares, pero can you repeat the last part?
I found expansive spaces of love, encouragement, and growth.
He encontrado espacios muy amplios de amor y espacio para crecer y desarrollar.
My point of view, in this time of pandemics and nature's unrest, I choose to believe that the planet is resetting and purging itself of the violence and hatred that exists.
De mi punto de vista, durante ese tiempo de pandemia, bueno, creo que el mundo está dejando atrás la violencia y el odio también.
I choose to believe that because I have to believe that it's going to get better, not just for me, but for my children and their children and their children's children.
Yo creo eso no porque quiero creer eso, porque tengo que creer eso, que las cosas van a mejorar para mis hijos, pero los hijos de mis hijos y los hijos de mis hijos de mis hijos también.
And my practice is built on the need to tell our own stories. So I focus on our folk stories, heritage, and disturbing the historical narrative that others have told about us.
Y mi práctica es decir nuestras propias historias y por eso me enfoco en folclórico y en cambiando la narrativa que ya existe sobre nosotros.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Who's next? We don't want to waste any time between.
¿Quién más? No perdemos tiempo.
So,
Yes.
my name is Nick Sly. I am calling from Bulbancha. I'm referred to as New Orleans or Southeast Louisiana.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I can't quite hear.
Can you hear me?
No, you're low.
A little quiet.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better. Thank you.
Better? Okay. My name is Nick Sly, and I'm calling from Bulbancha, that some refer to as South Louisiana or New Orleans.
Yo soy Nick Sly, estoy en la llamada de Bombucha, Louisiana. Bombucha, ¿sí?
Bulbancha.
Bulbancha, es decir, Nueva Orleans.
And Bulbancha refers to this idea. It's the place where many languages are spoken. And the place I live in is the bottom of the Mississippi Delta. So the place and the people are a confluence of the very diverse rivers, waters, and streams, and people from all over the world.
Y ese lugar significa el lugar de muchos idiomas y donde queda es en el delta del río de Mississippi, es decir, la confluencia de varios ríos y aguas y gente también y la diversidad.
And it's because of that, it is a place that many people have been forced to be here against their will.
Y por eso es un lugar donde han estado muchas personas contra su voluntad.
And so my point of view is to use tradition, story, culture, food, and joy to make sure that the stories of our home, all of them, are told in truthful ways.
Y por eso mi práctica es, mi punto de vista es usar tradición, historias, cultura, comida y alegría para contar las historias de nosotros.
And I like to eat food and cook.
Y me gusta comer y cocinar.
Thank you, Nick.
Gracias, Nick.
Yes.
Ok, voy a continuar con ese impulso de la comida y la cocina porque me encanta también cocinar. Entonces,
I will follow this point because I also like to eat and I like to cook.
Ok, yo soy José Emilio Bencosme, soy dominicano y me identifico más bien con las corrientes de resistencia a la dominicanidad institucional.
My name is Jose Emilio Bencosme, y I am from the Dominican Republic, and I identify most with people of resistance, the resistance of the Dominican Republic.
Soy caribeño que trata de crear un corpus cotidiano y que conecte la producción caribeña en general a través de las lenguas.
Can you repeat that? ¿Puedes repetir, por favor?
Soy caribeño que trata de crear un corpus desde lo cotidiano y la producción general del Caribe a través de las lenguas.
And being from the Caribbean, my idea is to create a body of work, both daily and la última parte de nueva, disculpa.
Like the production of knowledge from the Caribbean across languages.
Thank you.
Afrodescendiente en proceso de construirme constantemente en un entorno que hasta hace poco no me dejaba verme desde ese espejo.
And I am Afrodescendant. De cambiar de inglés a español. Disculpa de nuevo.
Okay, I can do it. Like if it's better, I can just try to do it quickly. Afrodescendant instance of like building myself constantly in an environment that never allowed me to see myself through this mirror, through this glance. That's the first P. Esa es la primera P. Soy un pez de ciudad. Esa es la segunda P. Where I'm from, I'm a urban fish, someone that has always been in the city, but con un impulso cada vez más fuerte de alejarme un poco de eso y conectar con otros relatos, but with a strong impulse to get into contact with other ways of being outside the city. I try to connect with the land, like a very, like, in a way, pagan, animistic, I don't know how to say it, vision. Trato de conectar con la tierra en una forma animística, pagana, de ver la vida. Y en este sentido, mi espiritualidad. And in this sense, is also connect my spirituality. I consider myself to be connected to water, like from the rain to the rivers and the sea. Me considero a mí estar conectado con las aguas, en la lluvia, en el río, en el mar. Y pienso en cómo construir desde cada espacio en que habite. And I think how to build in every place or every space that I am part of. My point of view, mi punto de vista, I'm optimistic, but in constant doubt. Soy un optimista, pero con dudas, pero siempre con dudas. My practice, I define it in thinking about identity, memory, objects, and space. Mi práctica la pienso siempre desde las preguntas, desde la identidad, la memoria, los objetos y los espacios. And I reflect a lot about sound and voice. Y reflexiono mucho sobre el sonido y la voz y quién tiene como la posibilidad de hablar, and who has the possibility or you know, the right to speak. And to end, all this is in a performative way, like I'm a performer, puppeteer, and writer. Y en esta manera lo expreso desde una manera performativa, una manera desde los títeres, desde la escritura. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Step in, step up.
¿Quién más?
Dora?
We're going to go that length, the PPP, the 4 PPs, or just worry about, I should not worry about, I'm also impressed by everybody's, I prepare something like super short.
Las respuestas de todo han estado súper impresionantes a mí y no preparé algo tan impresionante.
It should be. It's great.
Debe ser porque es genial.
Tiempo, estamos bien. My name is Dora Arreola. Mi nombre es Dora Arreola, Latinx from Mexico, from the border area of Mexico and United States. And as a lot of you mentioned it already, I am from the colonized place y de migrantes y campesinos. I am mixing the language already, sorry.
No, está bien. Yo soy Dora y de la frontera entre México y los Estados Unidos, es decir, de México, pero en el parte de la frontera, y también de un lugar colonizado y de migrantes.
Sí, migrantes. Eso me ha definido como artista. Vivir en la frontera es una zona para mí geográficamente muy de mucha contestación y de genocidio y feminicidio. Y a eso,
This border area has defined me as an artist, and being in this area of the border and the kinds of conflict that is there, feminicide.
Pero actualmente, en este momento estoy en Tampa, que es la tierra de los Seminoles.
But right now, at this moment, I'm in Tampa, which is the land of the Seminoles.
El ambiente en el que estoy de Florida me hace estar alerta del racismo y de discriminación, y al mismo tiempo de la naturaleza, quien me enseña a escuchar profundamente.
And this environment, being in Florida, has made me hyper aware of issues related to racism and discrimination, and also the question of nature, which has taught me to listen.
And also I'm talking about place in this moment. Nature also is teaching me to give and receive equally.
Naturaleza también me ha enseñado a dar y recibir en partes iguales.
Mi punto de vista, my point of view, I see the glass half empty, but I have hope. I think that I hope that the things can go better, and I think this is a mix of energies that move me and also reflect in my work.
Y mi punto de vista es que veo el vaso la mitad vacía, pero con esperanza para un futuro mejor. Y esa mezcla de energía, de optimismo, eso informa mi trabajo también.
About the practice, I am a community-based theater director and choreographer, and my intention is to put the voice of women at the center of the conversation and to look at women's issues at the border.
Y para mi práctica, yo soy directora y yo hago coreografía en un teatro comunidad y me enfoco en la voz de la mujer y cómo puedo poner en el centro de la conversación la voz de la mujer.
Thank you. Carlos and Andrea, I think I'm going to let you kick us to the
Andrea?
end. No,
Carlos y Andrea.
Okay. I was trying to. It's an old habit that I have to leave the place, to be the last.
Costumbre el último.
Sí, es una tradición. I'm Carlos Uriora, originally from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I there for 40 years. And
you dropped out, Carlos.
Okay, yeah.
I'm Carlos Uriora.
I lived there. Buenos Aires.
I'm from Buenos Aires. I've lived there for 40 years.
Yeah. I come from a family that was displaced many generations from Southern Europe into South America, and probably from North Africa into Southern Europe.
Yo soy de una familia de gente que llegaron desde el sur de Europa y quizás el norte de África también hace muchos años, hace muchas generaciones.
I want to underscore, quiero subrayar la palabra desplazados, porque siempre fueron kicked out, echados de diferentes lugares.
I want to emphasize the word displaced because they were in fact kicked out. They didn't just leave.
And I follow that tradition. Yo continúo esa tradición, and I displaced after the military dictatorship to Western Massachusetts, to the land of the Nipmucs, where I live now.
Y yo sigo en
Quiero,
esa tradición. Ahora yo vivo en el parte oeste de Massachusetts, en la tierra de los Nipmucs, después de la dictadura de militar en Argentina.
so those are place and person. I think I said both. My point of view is that I believe that we can create forms of life that are humane, creative, generative, as opposed to the other proposal of the world. Yeah.
Yo creo que podemos crear formas de vivir, formas de vida que son humanos, creativas, generativas.
That they are collective ways of creating that. There is a collective possibility of creating those forms.
Y esa posibilidad existe en un sentido colectivo.
And my practice is tied to that. So
Mi práctica está vinculada a esa idea.
I'm part for 25 years. I'm part of Double Edge Theater in Massachusetts, and it's a sort of like some people would call an intentional community of about 20 people that we manage an ensemble theater, and we develop research, rituals, ceremonies, and teatro popular too.
Y mi práctica es que hace 25 años yo he participado en un teatro que se llama Double Edge, y una gente se dice que es una comunidad intencional de 20 personas más o menos, y hacemos investigaciones, creamos rituales, ceremonias.
Teatro también. So one more thing that I want to say is that I was one of the founder of the Movimiento de Teatro Popular in Buenos Aires during the dictatorship, and I had a long history since '78 of creating theater under the military dictatorship in Buenos Aires.
Y también me gustaría decir que era fundador del movimiento de teatro popular en el año 1968 debajo de esa dictadura en Argentina, y yo practiqué ahí por ¿cuántos años?
7.
During 7 years.
Thank you, Carlos. Andrea.
Hey, y'all. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Hola a todos. Buenos días, buenas tardes. My name is Andrea Asaf. I'm the artistic director of Art to Action. And I consider my people to be a complex question, but I consider my folks to be people of color, queer folks, and women, and the people I identify with and that my organization serves.
Buenos días a todos, soy Andrea Asaf y yo pertenezco a una organización que se llama Arte a Acción. Mi gente son, es una pregunta compleja, pero yo considero que mi gente son personas de color, personas queer y mujeres.
And I am Lebanese American on my father's side and European American on my mother's side, which in the 21st century of the United States means I identify as Arab American.
Y de parte de mi papá soy Lebanese Americana, y de parte de mi madre soy americana de antecedentes europea, y por eso se dice que soy americana de árabe.
I'm calling in from Tampa, Florida, also the land of the Seminole and Tocobaga peoples, and I've lived here about 10 years, maybe more.
Yo también estoy en Tampa, la tierra de Seminole y Tocobaga, y yo he pasado más o menos 10 años aquí.
Although my heart home is still New York City, where I was trained and grew as an artist, even though I was born in Virginia.
Pero aún sigue mi corazón, el lugar de mi corazón es la ciudad de Nueva York, donde yo hice mi entrenamiento, mi práctica ahí y nací en Virginia.
For my practice, I'm primarily a writer and theater artist, trained as a performer, self-taught as a writer and director, with some background in movement and multimedia and interdisciplinary collaborations.
Y para mi práctica soy escritora, yo hago obras de teatro también, yo me enseñé a escribir y también estudio movimiento en cultura.
Digo multimedia y interdisciplinarios, colaboraciones interdisciplinarias. Sorry, forgive my Spanglish, but I'll help out if I can. Also, I have a passion for community-based work in theater and writing as part of my professional artistic practice.
Y también a mí me gusta participar mucho en teatro comunitario también. Y was there something else?
That's cool. And my point of view, I would say, is at the intersection of cultural organizing, queer feminism, performance studies, post-colonial studies, and critical race theory, which I am not afraid to say, even though it was just banned in the state of Florida.
Y mi punto de vista diría que es en la intersección de organizaciones o organizaciones culturales, feminismo queer, estudios de cine y la teoría crítica de raza, y no tengo miedo de decirlo tampoco, aunque tiene problemas en Florida con eso.
Thanks.
Está prohibida en Florida ahora.
Kaylee.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to give us a time check.
Perfect. I was just going to do that. So because of the delays this morning, our session got a little bit cut short. So we actually only have about 45 to 50 minutes more in this room before the sort of shortened Act 3 happens, wherein Rosie will be doing our report and Jen will be interpreting. So originally we'd had about like 8 to 9 minutes, including translation, for each person to answer their individual question, and then about 15 minutes for crosstalk, and then 5 minutes for the healing song and the flock in the box exercise. I'd like to post to the group that we can't do all of those things for that amount of time. We only have about 45 minutes left. So I just wanted to put that forth and see how we feel it would be best to proceed.
Ahora resulta que gracias a las dificultades técnicas de esta mañana quedan aproximadamente 45 minutos antes de tenemos que terminar aquí y mover al acto 3 del evento del día. Lo que queda son las preguntas individuales para cada panelista, la sesión de crosstalk, o sea, la charla abierta, y la parte de cerrar la sesión, que incluye una canción y flock in a box, un ejercicio de movimiento. Así que me gustaría preguntar al grupo cómo ustedes quieren continuar y usar el resto del tiempo que tenemos juntos.
Okay, so Kelly, what would that come out to be? We have 7 presenters. So what can we,
so with 7 presenters, if we cut down the time for the individual questions to 5 minutes per presenter, it'd be about 35 minutes, which would leave us for 10 minutes or so for a little bit of crosstalk and then the healing song and flock in the box. So we could, if that sounds good.
So how many minutes per?
5 minutes top.
5 minutes. Okay. Now,
si mantenemos todos los 3 partes que quedan, los panelistas van a tener 5 minutos para sus preguntas individuales antes de 10 minutos de crosstalk y terminar con esos ejercicios.
And I my practice is to try and create equity. So I'm going to time you and be a little bit harsh. I will try to give you 1 minute so that you know when to wrap up. And I know 5 minutes is a lot less than you want, but we're going to try this. Rosie, can you kick us off and model the 5-minute model?
Bueno, mi práctica es igualdad y por eso yo voy a poner en mi reloj 5 minutos para cada panelista. Les doy 1 minuto antes de terminar sus 5 minutos. Así que podemos empezar con Rosie.
First of all, I tried to do that with the 4 Ps and I failed.
Yo traté de hacer eso con los 4 P y
You had the 30-second 4 Ps.
I most certainly tried to. I can't find myself on the screen, but never mind. So what am I doing now, Linda? I am doing my question. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Ahora voy a responder a mi pregunta individual, ¿cierto? Cierto.
So my question today is, how are we turning inward with our lives and practices, relying on traditions and what we already know?
Mi pregunta de hoy es, ¿de qué manera nos encerramos en nuestras vidas y prácticas apoyándonos en las tradiciones y en lo que ya conocemos?
It's difficult to talk about this without acknowledging the deep sadness in which our city is in today. And I talk about turning inward in that sadness affects us. The sadness of the assassination of the president of Haiti, the sadness of the hundreds of people that have been killed in the collapse of the building. I live 15 minutes away from Little Haiti and from Surfside. So no matter how I try to shake it, it has affected my inward spirit.
Y hoy es un poco difícil hablar de eso hoy porque la tristeza profunda que tiene esta ciudad ahora mismo, la tristeza nos afecta, lo de Haití y el asesinato de su presidente hace muy poco tiempo y el derrumbe del edificio Surfside. Yo vivo 15 minutos de Little Haiti y también de ese edificio de Surfside.
However, to talk about our practice, I want to say to you that I feel like I'm a prowler and an imposter in this group as perhaps the only person who is embedded, whose practice is embedded in the visual arts. But Linda has assured me that ensembles cannot thrive without the visuals. And so I feel I have made a space for myself wanting to share how important ensemble work is in our community. The pantomime spirit that we have in the Caribbean is really important in the practice. I think that my life is a pantomime. The daily getting up and performing is a pantomime. And that it promotes vulnerability and provides a space for us despite Zooms and all of these other issues that we have to deal with.
Ok, yo pensé que mi práctica me sentía un poco como un poco intrusa en ese grupo de gente con tanta énfasis en práctica, porque yo trabajo en los artes visuales, pero Linda me dijo que hay espacio para artes visuales dentro de esa idea de práctica también. Y yo quiero hablar de un espíritu de pantomima y yo creo que mi vida cotidiana es pantomima y este espacio también.
So in these uncharted waters, I want to go back to the question that says, how are we relying on our traditions? We have a deep tradition here in our household, a tradition of tea making, a simple tradition, just like Mina took us through silence. Ginger tea, a pot of ginger tea is a ritual. Tea drinking is a ritual. And so I am paraphrasing when I talk about what are some of the rituals. Another ritual is a ritual of kneeling. You know, when you submit and kneel, whether it's being done on a platform or in your private practice, that is a ritual of submittance and humility. I'm sorry to the translator. Sorry,
Está bien, it's okay. Me gustaría hablar sobre las tradiciones, como dice la pregunta. Y en mi casa, por ejemplo, una tradición que tenemos es de hacer y tomar té. Y esos rituales también pensando en arrodillarse, si se hace eso en público o en sus espacios privados.
And then I want to just end by total example by saying that I'm asking us to think and imagine big. Imagine big. Don't huddle in one place. Make deep commitment to something artistic and ambitious. Do good wherever you can, whenever you can.
Y la última cosa que quiero decir es que dar una surgencia al grupo es pensar e imaginar de una forma bien grande y hacer lo bueno donde y cómo y pueden.
The sea is a healing place. Heal. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Rosie.
El mar es un lugar de curación. Cúrense.
Rosie, my practice is in visual art too. You're not the only one in the room.
Oh, so we're both prowlers.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to say that was the perfect model. Rosie did that in 4 minutes, 50.92 seconds.
Un ejemplo buenísimo de estar dentro del tiempo de 5 minutos.
Thank you. Dora, can we go to you next? And I'll just ask you to say what question you're responding to.
Yes, yes, I was with my cough. So, la respuesta a la pregunta, que si ocurrieron cambios permanentes en nuestra práctica.
So the question is, have there been permanent shifts in our practice?
En este caso, mi compañía de teatro, de danza y colaboradores durante la pandemia. La respuesta es sí.
Within my company of danza, of dancers, the response has been yes.
Definitivamente sí se nos movieron muchas ideas y paradigmas en mi práctica escénica.
Yeah, definitely the answer is yes. This has been paradigm shifting in our area.
Principalmente la importancia de presentarte en vivo ante un público que está en vivo también.
First and foremost, the practice of performing live, being live, and having a live audience as well.
Respirar con el actor y del actor respirar con el público.
Breathing with the actor and the audience breathing with the actor.
Y el público presenciar las transformaciones internas y externas de los actuantes para transmitir, para tocar el alma, para tocarles el corazón y la mente.
Y the transformations of the actors and the audience seeing these transformations, the transformations of the hearts and the souls.
Por otro lado, la idea de lo etéreo del teatro. For the other side is the idea of the ethereal, the impermanent of theater.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Del acto teatral, de que el hecho sucede es para ese momento, of the act, the theater act, that the fact happened for that particular moment, para ese tiempo y ese espacio en particular, for that time and for that space in particular, unique and unrepeatable, único y no repetible. Estas características eran las que distinguían el teatro que estábamos creando. These characteristics distinguish the theater that we were creating during the moment of the cancellation of all the events. Durante los momentos de la cancelación de todos los eventos teatrales públicos por la pandemia. Esas fueron mis preguntas. Those were my questions. Pero también fue como un pequeño dolor. But also was like a little pain. La idea de la diferencia entre el cine y el teatro la tenía muy clara. The idea of the difference of what is the work that I'm doing from film, it was very clear for me. It was I feel proud about in some way. And I had a little pain about thinking of the Y tenía un dolor pensando en la desaparición del teatro en vivo. I have like a pain thinking that the disappearance of live theater. It's okay if I'm translating myself?
Yes.
Sin embargo, la solución para hacer un teatro en vivo en el virtual, en el espacio virtual, me hace también cuestionarme la función del teatro, teatro popular o comunitario. However, the solutions, the immediate solutions to do live theater virtually also make me ask some questions about the function of theater and the function of this community theater. ¿Cuál es la función del teatro comunitario? ¿Cuál es la función? What is the function of theater? Ahora sí necesito traducción al inglés. ¿Estaba romantizando la noción de la función del teatro anteriormente?
I was romanticizing the purpose of theater
Before.
Mm-hmm.
Because the experience that I have this year, puesto que las experiencias que tuve este año de no hacerlo como normalmente o usualmente lo hacíamos, como Linda dice, las viejas formas de hacerlo.
Because this is the experience of this past year to not do things the normal way or what we're used to or by custom.
En doing in a different way y hacerlo en forma diferente tuvo un impacto similar y algunas veces mayor. Para mí algunas estructuras típicas para desarrollar una obra de teatro cambiaron, pero hay elementos esenciales del teatro que transmutaron o emigraron a espacios como en el caso del espacio virtual.
And it actually had a similar or even a better impact, some of the things that we were doing. Some of the structures changed, but also fundamental elements of doing theater remained.
They pass through the space, the virtual space.
I would like to, I know you have to translate, so just want to say that when we get into the discussion, things that we haven't covered, we can have as crosstalk.
Si hay unas cosas que ustedes, las panelistas, quieren decir que no tienen que ver exactamente con tu pregunta individual, vamos a tener tiempo para hablar de eso también durante la charla abierta después de las preguntas individuales.
Con relación a perder la valiosa respiración humana compartida durante la presentación de una obra de teatro, y digo respiración humana, me refiero a un complejo de interacciones entre el público y la obra de teatro y los actores.
And when I'm speaking of this human breathing, I am talking about the complete interaction between the actors and the audience in the theater.
I'm gonna have to go to the next person, and then we're gonna come back around in the conversation.
Tenemos que seguir con la próxima panelista.
So I'm going to go to Nick and let him talk about whether or not. Well, Nick, you just go ahead and introduce the question, all right?
Yeah, okay.
Nick, tú puedes empezar y con tu pregunta primera, por favor.
So the question I have is, how do we work in an ongoing pandemic? Are we actually experiencing the other side?
La pregunta mía es, ¿cómo se trabaja en una pandemia en curso y si estamos experimentando realmente el otro lado?
And this question made me think about the times in my life where I have witnessed people die.
Y esa pregunta me dio a pensar en los tiempos de mi vida en que alguien se murió.
And my experience has been that time slows down. People are very generous, and we see and we listen in different ways.
Y de acordarme de estas experiencias de en que el tiempo va más lentamente, en que la gente está más generosa y vemos y escuchamos de otra manera.
And then when we try to re-enter the real world, our time has slowed down and we're seeing things very clearly, but the world around us is going very, very fast.
Y cuando entramos de nuevo a the real world, al mundo real, nosotros vemos muy claro todo, pero el resto del mundo sigue súper rápido.
And so now that we are entering the other side, I'm having a hard time in my own body because I feel very slow and very clear on some lessons I've learned, but the world is moving super fast to get back to normal.
Y para mí personalmente, aunque estemos en el otro lado, mi cuerpo está moviendo muy lento, pero con intención muy claro, pero el resto del mundo y estoy aplicando lo que he aprendido durante ese tiempo, pero el resto del mundo está moviendo bien rápido.
And so my question is really, if we're repeating behaviors that we had before that were harmful to ourselves and to our people, then are we entering the other side? I don't think we are.
Y mi pregunta es si estamos repitiendo los mismos comportamientos que hacían daño a nuestras propias, nos mismos y a otras personas también, si realmente estamos en el otro lado.
And so my hope is that we find the courage and the strength in ourselves and in our families and in our friends and our communities to really re-enter the world we want to see, not the world that we had before.
Y mi esperanza es que nosotros podemos encontrar coraje y fuerza entre nuestras redes de nuestras amistades, familias, etcétera, para entrar de nuevo al mundo que queremos.
And if anyone can do it, the artist can do it.
Y si sea posible, si alguien hace eso, son los artistas.
Which is why I think this among many other things is our time now.
Y por eso, entre muchas cosas más, ahora es nuestro tiempo.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick.
Gracias, Nick.
I'm going to go to Mina, and Mina has her own question, and so does Emilio. So I'd like to go to Mina and then Emilio.
Pasamos a Mina y después a ¿quién? Who? Emilio and then who?
Mina and then Emilio.
Yeah, I'm Emilio, Jose Emilio.
Okay, I hope I'm not a mess in this short time, but I have lots of thoughts in my head. So I guess I'm speaking both as an artist. I'm a writer and director of theater. I'm a playwright, a director. I also create ensemble-based work. And also,
question, Nina, sorry, can you repeat your question for me?
Sure. My question is, how do you genuinely build sustained solidarity among people of color, especially at this time?
La pregunta de Mina es cómo construyes una comunidad sostenible entre personas de color durante este momento específicamente. Y ella dijo también que ella es artista, escritora, directora de teatro de ensemble.
Yes, and I'm also a curator, a facilitator, and a producer and administrator. So for me, these are all like, it's not separate. But I also believe that you have to create solidarity in your own spaces, like if you're doing community-based work with your community, as well as, in a larger and larger way.
Y ella tiene bastante papeles en el mundo de teatro, pero para crear solidaridad en comunidades hay que hacerlo en los espacios de la comunidad
and I also
y en espacios más grandes.
Sorry. And I also come from the experience of being from a place like India, which is a real pluriverse, and in terms of just language, culture, class, you name it, foods, And so being part of those spaces of multiplicity has always made me crave for spaces of multiplicity.
Y además mi experiencia, ser de India y como un espacio bastante diverso de lenguaje, cultura, clase y comida también, eso ha informado mucho mi práctica en teatro.
And because I'm seeing the reduction of those spaces, even in my own country, even in India, where there's a real push from the fundamentalist Hindu types, and people who are theater makers, who are journalists, are being arrested right now. I honestly, for me, this question of solidarity becomes very important, whether it's here, across the world, any place that we live in.
Y yo he visto también estos espacios hay menos y son más pequeños porque resulta de fundamentalismo religioso y de la censura también.
And so I really also believe, I believe that solidarity building is also very personal. I mean, you can build within your own circles as well as much larger. And I'm just inviting all of you maybe to put the way you build solidarity, maybe little practices in the message, if you don't mind. I would love to have you share your solidarity building practices in the message, if you can.
Y me interesa cómo ustedes construyen solidaridad en sus propias comunidades, en sus propios círculos y en espacios más grandes también. Si alguien quiere poner sus prácticas para construir solidaridad en the chat.
Yeah, and I think that and because we are so we have so many different histories, right? Our histories are so different, and yet there are similar things in our history. And these histories play themselves out, whether it's in the rehearsal room, or whether it's on stage, whether it's in our gatherings, locally, nationally, internationally, and exchanges, as we try to build movement together.
Y también todos tenemos nuestras propias historias, son historias diferentes y eso se ve en espacios diferentes como en teatros, en salas y eso, y al niveles diferentes también, el nivel nacional, internacional, y así seguimos construyendo el movimiento.
And I just saw Linda saying, I have 1 minute more. So that's difficult. But I just wanted to also say that, in 2020, there was a study done, and they found that in this country, right? And I'm not even talking about other countries where, like India, there's no structure for theater. There's no infrastructure for theater. And in this country, it said that in terms of like just even talking about foundation giving, they said that only 5% of pandemic response dollars were intended for communities of color.
Mm. Mm.
And only half of 1% of annual foundation supports women and girls of color. And less than half of 1% goes to Native Americans. So, I mean, these are really stunning figures.
Okay.
And it hasn't changed much now, so.
Había unas investigaciones en este país, en los Estados Unidos, en 2020 sobre la infraestructura de las artes y eso, y la práctica para financiar los artes, y resulta que 5% del dinero que la gente daron en respuesta a la pandemia, ese dinero llegó a comunidades de color. La mitad de 1% de ese dinero llegó a comunidades de mujeres y niñas de color, y menos de eso a comunidades de americanos nativos.
So I guess for me, the reason I'm giving these statistics is also because I really believe that there are systems that we need to shift, and also that there are ways in which we have to deconstruct a paradigm. Even before the systems, we have to actually deconstruct the paradigm itself, the kinds of stories that play themselves out, and also like how do we build resistance to these ideas as well? How do we resist these ideas? How do we show up for each other? I guess I'm going to wait for translation and then I'll wrap it up.
Y les di esas cifras para mostrar que tenemos que cambiar los sistemas. Y además, antes de cambiar los sistemas, también tenemos que desconstruir ese paradigma que tenemos, las historias que vemos y construir una resistencia juntos a esas ideas y apoyarnos uno a otro.
And I just want, as just the ending, I want to just pay homage to people like Linda Paris Bailey, who've been building solidarity their entire life. So I just want to say that, you know, we have models for this, and we can do it.
Para terminar con esa porción, me gustaría dar gracias a gente como Linda Paris Bailey, que ha pasado su vida entera construyendo solidaridad y comunidad, y que ya tenemos ejemplos de eso.
I did not pay you for that, Mina.
No pagué Mina por eso.
Emilio, and if you are Jose and not Emilio, but you
No. It's better to say Jose Emilio.
Okay.
Because just a quick note is Jose Emilio because my dad is Jose Luis and there's a lot of Jose, so it's okay. I identify as Emilio.
Si mi nombre es José Emilio, el José sí es importante porque mi padre fue José también, y así que sí, soy José Emilio.
Bueno, cambio al español. Simplemente voy a resumir algunas ideas de lo que tenía pensado exponer.
I will begin in Spanish, and I'm just going to give an overview of some of these ideas.
Ok, la primera es que hay una pregunta abierta sobre la producción cultural, producción comunitaria dentro de la pandemia.
And the first one is an open question about production, specifically cultural production during the pandemic.
Y la pandemia nos abre a nuevas formas o a esta pregunta de nuevas formas de producción. Y tenemos que encontrar un equilibrio.
And this question of whether the pandemic or how the pandemic has opened new forms up to us, and also the question of finding an equilibrium or a balance.
Hay procesos que se facilitan, que están determinados, por ejemplo, en determinados contextos. Digamos, este encuentro es un ejemplo de eso, pero también hay que pensar qué tan incluyentes son algunos de estos procesos, como es el caso de la educación, que se ha visto afectada en la dinámica, por ejemplo, por acceso a la conectividad de los jóvenes y el teatro que se hace o los trabajos artísticos que se hacen a través de esta pantalla.
And there have been some senses in which these new processes have facilitated things, especially with respect to text, but we also have to think about the challenges in the way that education has been affected, and particularly with issues of access and connectivity, connecting young people in theater.
Entonces, en este punto quisiera ver la pandemia como una posibilidad de ocupar otros espacios, tanto virtuales como comunitarios, y cómo construir desde ahí, tal vez de una manera, en algunos casos, más personal, de persona a persona, y en otros más abiertos a las interacciones como colectivas.
And the way that the pandemic has opened possibility of using other spaces, other community spaces, to build from there more personal interactions or more open forms.
Entonces es una producción desde la resistencia.
And in that sense, it is a production against resistance.
Finalmente, me gustó este último punto que trajo Mina sobre la infraestructura, porque una de los puntos y preguntas que tenía o que tengo es cómo construir en un sistema económico que nos impulsa a ir a un ritmo que a veces no es el ritmo del proceso.
And I really liked Mina's last point about infrastructure, and it makes me think about how can we create within a community that compels us to try to move at its pace.
Y lo dejaría ahí para tener tiempo en la conversación.
And I'll leave it there so we can have time for the open chat.
Great. Emilio. Andrea, maybe you can take it to the global level.
All right, thank you. So
al nivel global.
My question is, how do we support racial and vaccine equity in our work worldwide?
La pregunta que tengo hoy es cómo apoyamos la igualdad racial y de vacunas en nuestro trabajo y en nuestro mundo.
Which for me is a question about what is the role of the artist.
Para mí, eso es una pregunta sobre el papel del artista.
So I want to suggest a few things by way of example of what work I've been doing or what happened during the pandemic for me.
Y con eso me gustaría compartir unas ideas, unos ejemplos del trabajo que he hecho durante la pandemia.
Sometimes training precedes art making. So one of the first things that was important for me to do, or that I was called upon to do by colleagues, was teaching anti-racism trainings online after the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis.
A veces es necesario hacer entrenamiento antes de hacer arte, y por eso unas personas me pidieron que yo haga sesiones de antirracismo después de falleció George Floyd.
I was in the midst of a collaboration with an organization called Houston in Action, which is an activist organization in Houston, Texas.
En ese momento ya trabajaba con una organización que se llama Houston in Action, Houston, la ciudad en Texas, en acción.
And I was asked to shift our focus from cultural organizing to racial justice trainings.
Y me pidieron a cambiar o mover donde enfocaba en cultura popular y organizando culturalmente a antirracismo.
Because Houston in Action, like many of our organizations, is a coalition of many different communities of color that also needed to learn more about how to truly understand each other's causes and support each other in a moment of crisis.
Y porque Houston in Action, esta organización, es parte de un grupo de organizaciones de comunidades de color, y el primer paso fue ¿qué hacemos para que nos entendamos más bien y que apoyarnos también?
To develop a shared analysis of racism and how it affects our work in order to go forward together.
Y también formar un análisis compartido de racismo y cómo nos afecta para seguir adelante.
Also, sometimes activism and advocacy precedes art making.
Y otras veces activismo llega antes de crear arte.
So with Houston in Action, we were in the middle of the very dramatic 2020 presidential election cycle. And we wanted to mobilize voters of color in the US, both in Texas and Florida, which are key states, but also nationally.
Y durante ese momento en Texas, en Houston in Action, yo trabajaba con ellos en las elecciones presidenciales de 2020, muy dramáticas estas elecciones, y trabajábamos para movilizar el voto de gente de color en Texas y en Florida.
Y nacionalmente. Entonces, we commissioned 10 artist projects, which all had to be converted to online predominantly, like digital organizing, but all artist-led projects to engage different communities of color and different languages in different locations through the election cycle. So then the role of the artist became part of a mobilization movement.
Y invitamos 10 artistas para hacer proyectos que tuvimos que cambiar esos proyectos a estar online y esos tomaron lugar en comunidades de color diferentes, en lenguajes diferentes, en lugares diferentes durante las elecciones presidenciales. Así que desarrolló el papel de la artista como organizadora.
So I just want to mention that right now, Houston Action is looking to apply what we learned about that model to vaccine equity work in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Y ahora la organización de Houston in Action quiere aplicar lo que ha aprendido durante la pandemia, o sea, durante las elecciones, a una campaña de vacuna.
So that's my time. I have more, but maybe in the discussion. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you, because that draws us into how this might work in terms of the pandemic. Thank you. Let's see, Carlos.
Carlos unfortunately had to leave earlier. He's in tech too separately, so the time shift today kind of didn't work too well. I know, and he was so sorry, but I'm going to send along the recording of the session to all of our participants afterwards too. So we're sorry to miss him, but thankful that he could be in for as long as he could. I think that Michelle is our last participant to speak to her question.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Desafortunadamente, Carlos tuvo que irse porque gracias a las dificultades técnicas de esta mañana y el cambio de horario tuvo que irse, y así que la última panelista sería Michelle.
Okay, so my question is, have online options made field-wide changes?
Mi pregunta hoy es si las opciones en línea han hecho cambios en todo el campo.
And we lost some theater elders in Barbados during the pandemic and throughout the Caribbean. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge and honor them and say, may their light ever shine among us. Ashe.
Ashe.
Y yo tengo que decir que desafortunadamente perdimos unos de los ancianos del mundo de teatro en el Caribe, y por eso me gustaría decir también que la luz brilla sobre eso, y ashe.
One of the major deficiencies that the pandemic showed up for us here in Barbados was the lack of proper documentation of our theatrical work.
Una cosa que nos dio cuenta debido a la pandemia fue la falta de documentación sobre nuestros trabajos del teatro.
We saw how our work could live after the show, reach audiences that can't come to our physical theater spaces. And this all happened because of this online option that suddenly was the only option available to us.
Y nos dio cuenta que pudimos compartir después de la obra con más gente, con gente que no pudo asistir.
See? So where I work at the college, we went into having online play readings and performances. And across the globe, you saw other theater companies and schools doing the same thing.
En mi colegio, por ejemplo, en mi universidad, empezamos a hacer, de leer obras de teatro online, hacer eso, y vivimos también otras universidades haciendo lo mismo.
Mm-hmm. So embracing this online work raised a lot of questions. Is it still theater if it's shown on a screen? And where do we draw the line between theater and film?
Y eso provocó varias preguntas, por ejemplo, si ocurre en una pantalla, si aún es teatro, y cuál es la diferencia realmente entre teatro y cine.
So the world around us was changing, and I think it meant that our understanding and philosophy of theater needed to change with it.
Así que el mundo alrededor de nosotros estaba cambiando, y por eso empezamos a pensar que también tuvo que cambiar nuestra filosofía.
I believe that many of us embraced the change that Zoom performances brought and interactive live performances. So we saw a lot of popular theater work that was happening, applied theater and play readings, those kinds of performances happening online.
Y vimos muchos cambios de Zoom como la vida interactiva y interacción popular que llegó con Zoom.
And even if COVID disappears tomorrow and we reopen theater as it was pre-pandemic, I think we still need to consider the possibilities that virtual performances have opened for us.
Y aunque si mañana desaparezca la pandemia completamente, tenemos que preguntarnos si de lo que queda de teatro virtual.
Do we abandon live shows as we knew them? I think not.
¿Vamos a abandonar el teatro en vivo? Yo creo que no.
But I do think that we need to explore the new world of online performances, whether they're live performances or streamed recordings of a performance that's finished.
Y debemos explorar ese nuevo mundo de online, en línea, si sea en vivo o no.
We need to see this as an opportunity to get our stories and our concerns to larger audiences.
Debemos ver eso como una oportunidad a compartir nuestras historias con más gente.
So we can have 200 people viewing the performance tonight, but potentially millions that can view it when the show is closed.
Así que, por ejemplo, si quizás hay 200 personas viendo la performance esta noche y más después, millones de gente.
And as a region and people whose stories have been inaccurately told for far too long, I think that it's time that we grab the chance to correct those false narratives and tell our stories ourselves.
Y como una región del mundo sobre que hay muchas historias que son falsas, ahora tenemos la oportunidad a corregir las narrativas falsas y decir nuestras propias historias.
Punto final, Linda.
I just want to say, first of all, everyone, thank you so much, everyone. That's been wonderful. As a time check, the next section, the wrap-up, starts in about 6 minutes, where we'll all return back to watching live streaming either via Facebook or HowlRound TV. So we can take a few minutes if anyone's got a pressing question they want to offer someone. We also do want to make sure we have time for the flock in the box exercise. Linda, I don't know if you want to forgo the healing song or if we want to do it, but I just wanted to give everyone a quick time check. We've got about 6 minutes left.
Para que sepan, quedan solamente 6 minutos y después tenemos que pasar al acto 3 del evento de hoy. Y no sé si alguien tiene una pregunta ahora o Linda, si vamos a cortar la canción de curación, pero sí creo que queremos hacer the flock in the box.
Right first. Okay. So here's my proposal. I think that if we could collect just one question that this conversation has raised for you, that I think would be really a great use of our time. So if you could think about that while I vamp.
Queremos coleccionar una pregunta from each person.
Yes, from each person.
De cada persona que esta conversación ha provocado para ti. Una pregunta de cada persona.
And then we can capture those things that have arisen from the conversation. That's the point of that.
Y con eso podemos capturar el espíritu de lo que salió de esta conversación.
And secondly, I do want us to end flocking. If Dora would lead us in that. And Rosie, do you want to sing?
Sure, I'll sing.
All right, so Rosie's going to sing and Dora's going to lead us in the flocking. Okay, so,
vamos a seguir con ese plan original de sí. Rosie va a cantar y vamos a hacer ese ejercicio de movimiento con Dora.
And for the flocking, if people can and if they feel comfortable, it might be nice for people to turn on their cameras so we can all see each other while we do it. If
Y
people
por un
can do
ejercicio
long
de movimiento, si la gente quieren, si quieren poner sus cámaras.
Linda, may I just say something quickly?
Yes.
In trying to document this for the report out, one thing came up to me is that we have not, may I offer that we haven't spoken about the racial generation gap. We've kind of left out the millennials. If you look at our age span here on this call, we've left them out a little bit. And I just wanted to insert that because I think it's an important block if we're thinking about succession and passing this practice on for us to speak. So I have it here, changing demographics as a big block of conversation, and the racial generation gap, millennials in this conversation. So I just wanted to put that in.
Y pensando adelante de dar el reportaje de ese grupo en la próxima sección, me di cuenta que no hay ningún milenio en esta sala ahora, y el espacio entre las generaciones que tenemos sobre las conversaciones que tienen que ver con la raza.
Thank you.
Yes. And I'm seeing some of the questions in the chat. So if you can put them in the chat, that's really great as well.
And I will send those, sorry to interrupt, Linda, I'll send those questions out to everyone. I'll do a little, like a post roundtable email out to everyone. So I'll put the questions in there so we can think on them on our own time.
Dice que ya veo que la gente está poniendo sus preguntas en la chat, pero Kelly dice también que ella va a mandar todas las preguntas de todas las panelistas del grupo al grupo después.
Okay. I do want to thank you all for your patience, for your contribution, for your continued work during this time and prior to this time. We have all survived. If any of you are on my Facebook page, I posted something this morning musically that I think you really want to listen to. So, Rosie?
Yes, dear.
Bueno, también quiero decir gracias a todos ustedes por su paciencia, por su participación en ese evento y por su trabajo ahora y antes. Gracias.
So we're going to do your song, Rosie.
Okay, we're going to do it.
Dora,
Yeah.
you take us through flocking. It doesn't matter if it's with the music or...
Yeah, can I translate flocking first to Spanish?
Yes.
What is the translation is parvada.
Barbada?
Movimiento de parvada, de cardumen, de armonioso entre un grupo de mariposas, de peces, de pájaros. Esa es la idea del flocking en la caja.
Gracias. Yo pensaba en ovejas.
No. Bueno, de mucho, ¿no?
Let's do this.
Pájaro. A ver.
So this is a really easy song, and it goes like this. Halle, 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 hallelujah. And you can clap. Halle, 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 hallelujah. Halle, halle, hallelujah. 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 Simple, right?
Yep. Now I'm going to ask everybody, right, to turn off your mic.
Esas son las letras, pero les pido ahora a apagar sus micrófonos.
And as you sing, you can clap. And Dora, you just move us through.
Okay, so
van a cantar con micrófonos apagados, y Dora va a mostrarnos los movimientos.
Los movimientos que yo voy a hacer, también voy a captarlos de los que están aquí, entonces voy a tomar movimientos de otros para hacer el cambio de la parvada o del cardumen. O sea, voy a empezar con un movimiento que va a salir de alguien que voy a ver y lo voy a hacer. I will take the movement from somebody that is moving the head. I will take the head to move and follow me a certain movement, a certain moment. somebody will move differently, and I will take that, and it's like change of direction. But those changes is coming from us, from all of us. That's Barbara.
Thank you. All right. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to.
I'm turning off my mic. Don't turn yours off, Rosie.
All right. Ali, 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 Luya. Ali, 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 Luya. Ali, 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 Luya. Ali, Ali, Hallelujah. Ali, 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 Luya. Ali, 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 Luya. Ali, 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 Luya. Ali, Ali, Hallelujah. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ali, 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 Hallelujah. Ali, 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 Hallelujah. Ali, 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 Hallelujah. Ali, Ali, Hallelujah.
Thank you.
Only Linda could get me to do that.
Thank you all so very much. And, I hope this conversation continues, and that now that we have met each other and know something about each other, I mean, the opening questions, the 4 Ps, is really to get us to know one another. We all do panels and conversations with people we just don't know. So hopefully that is somewhat of an introduction so that we can continue our conversation online. Thanks, team. Thanks, Kaylee. Thanks, Rosie. Thanks, Rashida. And thank you all who volunteered your time.
Me gustaría decir gracias de nuevo y ojalá que podamos continuar esta conversación, ya que ahora que hemos conocido una a otra un poco aquí en esta sala, y dar gracias de nuevo al equipo de Kaylee, Rosie, Rashida también.
And Michelle Cox. I'm going to just start saying Michelle Cox and Rosie and Kaylee and Rashida. Yeah, Michelle, that was really beautiful this morning. Thank you. Thank you for your work on this panel. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jose Emilio, who joined us. And hopefully you'll be back and we'll keep all of this going.
Gracias a Michelle y José Emilio por estar con nosotros ahora y por su trabajo esta mañana también.
And I'm not sure what's next, Kaylee.
No, so next we're all going to go back to the live stream, other than Rosie and Jen, who will be doing the reporting for our group. So whether you're watching live streaming via the Facebook page or through Halbrand TV, I think we should all be able to go back and get back to that again now. Also, it looks like Rashida got some good screenshots, which is awesome. I think my screen's been kind of weird because I can't see most people's videos. So I thought everyone had them off. But if they've been on and I got caught with screenshots, then that's great.
Ahora lo que hacemos es, ya hemos terminado con esta porción del evento. Después es el tercer acto donde casi todo el mundo, menos Rosie y Jen, van a regresar al live stream a ver el resto del programa en Facebook o en Howlround. Y también Rashida dice que ella hizo unas grabadas de pantalla. Sí.
All right, everyone. Thank you all so much. Does anyone need me to send the links into the chat right now of how to get back to the HowlRound or the Facebook live stream?
Gracias a todos. ¿Alguien
Yes.
necesita los enlaces para unirse con
Just one
Livestream?
second. Just 1 second. Sorry.
Okay. I think I've got to run to the other room.
Okay, you two run. I will get those. I'm sorry, I'll get those in here really fast.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Kaylee.
Thank you all so much.
You and I stay here, Linda. Is that it, or just me?
No, so Rosie, you're gonna go to the Jitsi report room. Do you have the link for that? I don't have it, but I can get it really quickly from Carolina. Or Matt.
I don't know where that is now.
Yeah, because it's weird. I thought everyone's video was off for the most of that, but maybe it was just my computer saying that everyone. I could see you, both of you, a lot, and I could see Jen, but everyone else's video looked like it was off most of that time.
Let me see if I can find the link now. It's been interesting to. That's what happened to me earlier. Remember, I was on twice. So, okay, I found the Jitsi link.
Okay, you did. Okay.
Let me go to it and see.
And then Linda, you and I will just live stream in however you were doing that before. Were you on Facebook or HowlRound TV earlier?
I was on HowlRound TV.
Okay, perfect.
I'll come back, and I have a hard 2 o'clock as well.
Okay.
So, me too. Yeah.
Okay, well then I will check in with you. I'll send an email to the full group later on today or early tomorrow with just some thoughts and everyone's questions that they had posed. I got them all down. Thank you both so much.
Haley, you have been awesome. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I want to keep in touch. Yes.
Thank you. I feel very lucky to have been working with you both and with this full group. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll see you both soon.
All righty.
Bye.
Okay, I guess we're hanging up, Rosie.
So I went to the Jitsi room, but okay, let me leave this meeting. Okay, bye, love.
Bye.
It went really well. It really went well,
Well, thank you. I we all worked hard on it, so
yes.
I'm glad it went well.
Yes.
All right.
All right, my love. Let me leave this meeting and go to the Jitsi. I hope.
Okay.
One.